Hey everybody, it's Carrie, your friendly neighborhood makerspace librarian, back with another science short. And today we are going to be looking at some chemical reactions. We're going to learn about how heat and how motion help those chemical reactions, and how some reactions happen fast and some happen slow. What we're working on today is called an iodine clock. I'll explain a little bit more about it as we go on. So we're going to start out taking a look at how heat affects chemical reactions. So we have 2 vials, cold water, warm water, and we have 2 dye tablets, and we're going to add one to each. So into the cold water, into the warm water, and you can start to see already that warm water is helping that chemical reaction get started. The dye is already starting to mix with the water, and the cold water, not so much. Which is going to bring us to our second point and what can help a chemical reaction, and that is some motion. So we're going to screw these lids on, and then we're going to shake it up a little bit. And as you can see, almost immediately that motion starts to have an effect. I think the warm water is still even mixing better, even with that mixing. Okay, so now we are going to take 2 beakers that have warm water in them, and the first one we are going to add some iodine to. And you can see that's kind of a dark liquid. It's going to turn all of our water will take on that darker color. We're going to use this pipette, which has measurements on the side. It goes up to 3 milliliters, and we're going to need 5, so I'll do this twice. First milliliter goes in, and then I'm going to grab a little bit more. Not quite that much. There we go. Okay. Now into the second one, we're going to add some ascorbic acid. So I'm going to take my scoop here and add that in, and we know warm water is going to help it dissolve. But our last experiment also showed us that motion helps that dissolve. So I'm also going to use this to stir it up a little bit and make sure that gets all the ascorbic acid dissolved in our water. Okay, so now what we're going to do is take some of that ascorbic acid solution into our pipette, about 3 milliliters. We're going to add it to our iodine solution, and you're going to see a chemical change take place almost immediately. Let me make sure to get the full 3 milliliters here. Let's see. There we go. That looks pretty good. Into our iodine solution. And as you can see, that starts to turn our iodine solution clear. And when those two mix together, it makes something called iodide with a D, and that is a clear solution. We'll mix it up a little bit to finish off the chemical reaction. Okay, so this is one of my favorite toys. It's going to help us mix. It has this magnetic pellet, and when we turn it on, that middle bit spins, and it's going to spin that pellet around. We won't actually leave it like this. We're going to take that pellet, we're going to put it inside our plastic beaker, and then when we turn it on, it spins and does all the mixing for us, which is pretty cool. So we have our iodide solution. This middle one has starch and hydrogen peroxide, and this last one is just some warm water. So we are going to pour these in order. First goes the iodide solution. Remember, that's iodine and ascorbic acid. Then we are going to pour in our starch and hydrogen peroxide mixture. And then we are going to add in just some more water. We're going to turn on our mixer to start our chemical reaction. So that second solution had hydrogen peroxide in it, and right now it's mixing with the iodide from the first solution, and it's trying to turn it back into iodine with an N. But as soon as that starts to happen, the ascorbic acid is going to jump back in and make sure it stays iodide. But what we're going to see is the hydrogen peroxide is going to run out. And when that happens, it starts to turn back into iodine, which gives us this yellow color that we're starting to see now. This is going to start our second reaction. Because that hydrogen peroxide has been used up, what we're going to see is the starch is going to be able to react with the iodine. And that's going to give us a whole different chemical reaction and a different color. You can start to see that yellow going darker and darker as the starch and the iodine are reacting together. And that's why this kind of chemical reaction is called an iodine clock, because the chemical reactions tell us how long it has taken for one of the ingredients to be all used up and for the next set of chemical ingredients to start their chemical reactions. Here we go. And that is our iodine clock experiment. And that's today's Science Short. Thanks for following along. I hope to see you back next week when we'll have another Science Short.